Hi, and welcome to this episode of I've Got This Kid. I'm your host, Cherina Williams, licensed speech and language pathologist, homeschooling mom of two of the cutest, but now biggest kids in the world. They're almost as big as I am. Good grief. And wife of one, here to talk everything speech, language, play, development, and all that other fun stuff that falls in between. I am glad to serve you yet again, another week, being in the building, having a good time with you guys. We have been going like crazy. The show has not stopped as we have gotten into 2021. I hope you guys are enjoying the episodes and catching up on past episodes, because we got to stay tooled up. We got to stay in the know. We got to be knowledgeable. And you know what? It's important for us to be able to connect, grow, and learn together, whether we're doing that physically with our little ones or if we're getting educated so we can better connect and grow or get them connected or however that algorithm goes, y'all. But today we're going to get right into things. Today's topic we're going to be talking is virtual learning killing our kids' future. Dun, dun, dun. I wish I had like a button that would go like dun, dun, dun. But I ain't got nothing like that, and that's okay. But we have a special guest with us, and I'm so excited. Let me tell you how life comes full circle. This is my professor from undergrad. Yes, from undergrad. And this is not the first time that she and I have worked together. She is an awesome woman, Dr. Tonia East-Phanor, just amazing. She was my comm professor, and that's short for communication, but not communication disorder, communication studies, because I wanted to speak for a living, and go figure, here I am, y'all. So I'm gonna let her take over from here, y'all.
So it is such a pleasure. And as you know, it's hard for me to believe you're my student. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I really am inspired by you, and I see you doing it and just doing your thing. And yes, if I had a little teeny tiny part to play in that, I'm like overjoyed, but I'm truly just really proud of the work that you're doing and who you are, not just as in academics, but also as a person. And so, yeah, so it is definitely full circle. Like the teacher teaches the student, teaches the teacher. And it's like, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me. And really, I see you as a peer now, but I'm just really proud of who you become and honored that you would have me on today.
She's getting me all teared up, y'all. She don't look nothing but 20 still, y'all. That's a mess, and I'm not giving my age away. So.
No, you do too.
So today, again, we're going to be talking a little bit about virtual learning. And the reason that I'm having Dr. Phanor East on the show, and I'm going to say Dr. Phanor, but I might say Dr. East because she was Dr. East when I had her, but now she's Dr. Phanor East, and hey, look. It is what it is. We'll be fine, y'all. But the reason why I had her here for two reasons. A, she has a lot of years in universities teaching students from a wide range, but also as a mom, as a parent, from that lens. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. But before we get into that, I'm going to let her talk about herself and all her amazingness.
Well, I don't know if it's all that amazing. I think I'm as amazing as my students and clients are. So that is awesome. But as you stated, yeah, I've been in basically higher education for the last 20 years. It's hard to believe that. And I was so young. Yes, I was a baby when I taught you. So it hasn't been, we're still young though, but I have been teaching for 20 years, and it's hard to believe that, but I've loved it. I enjoy teaching communication, and just because of the impact that no matter what profession you are in, no matter what you need to be an effective communicator, whether you're a teacher or a lawyer or a business person, everyone has to work on their communication skills. And so I've enjoyed teaching it over the years. It's definitely been fulfilling and rewarding. And I know that I've seen not just you and many other students go on to do great things in media, in professionally, as teachers, as in various different fields. And so that makes me proud. But then as I was working outside of academia, I had business professionals, people that were wanting to go into media and different things, contact me and wanted to do training and consult. And so then I started doing trainings for people outside of academia, for organizations, for business leaders, for people in media in different situations who wanted to improve their communication skills as well. And so I started doing consulting, and that's where kind of Phanor Consulting was birthed out of that. And I feel like I'm still teaching. It's just on in a different platform, a different area. And whether it's doing podcasts or doing radio or I've done television, but I feel like really it's all kind of the same. I'm working within communication still. So it's just I have different channels in which that I relay that information, even as an author. I still feel like I'm relaying information and passing on information, but it's just in a different form or channel. So I consider myself a lifelong learner and definitely always wanting to learn and grow. But I'm glad that I've been able, I guess, to spend most of my life, as an educator and teacher and helping others and empowering others.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm telling you guys, this woman is on fire. Not only has she written books, I think when she was teaching, I bought her first book, Changing Lanes. I still have it on my bookshelf.
Wow, that's crazy.
I have it. And you've written other books as well during that time. And so I'll drop that in the show notes at the end if any of you guys are interested, because it's not necessarily talking about communication, but just honestly working on the person and getting to that journey, which is just as important, because you world changers know I talk a lot about working on ourselves so we can be good for the little people that we take care of, because if we're not great for ourselves, how can we be great for others? And so I really want to make sure to throw that in there before we get into stuff, to make sure that, especially in today's climate, whether it's no matter what's going on. And I can say from many different aspects, a lot of different things are being thrown at us, but making sure that we're taking that time to engage in self-care, whether that is through reading, whether that is through learning, whether that is through whatever media makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves and a little bit more empowered to be tasked and to handle the tasks that are in front of us. So thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it so much. And so we're going to just get straight into it. Virtual learning. I wasn't going to drop any stats, but the only stat that I'm going to really drop today, but y'all know I might say that and do something else. But for now, since COVID has hit, and it's been a year now, 93% of kids have had some kind of experience with virtual learning, whether that be class was virtual for a short period of time, or now they're into their first full academic school year of virtual learning, or maybe they're getting a combination of online and in-person learning. And I've thought a lot about this. I've been watching, I've been reading. When I'm not doing this, I'm always reading and just kind of paying attention to what's out there. And also thinking about like the implications of what's going to happen to this generation who's having to adapt. And the great thing about the human species in general is that we are super resilient and we are adaptable. But I feel like in a way that only happens when we're able to tool ourselves up in a way to where it becomes a benefit. Maybe something that didn't seem like it was going to be beneficial initially ends up becoming a benefit. And so I think about that, but I also think about from the mindset of someone who loves communication just in general, and not just like the pathology behind it and the diagnosis behind it, but also valuing like that interpersonal relationship. And if we haven't learned anything, that COVID has made us become a lot more creative in how that's carried out. But that doesn't always translate very well in academia. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. And we promise, like we talked about this, we are not going to make this like some sad sack episode about, oh my gosh, my child's life is ruined because they had this time virtually. No, that's not what I'm here to do. You guys know that's not what we do here. But we do want to highlight the real of it and also inspire hope and some tools that we can actually use going forth. So I'm going to let you start, Dr. East, after I went off on my rant about your personal experience with virtual learning. She did not mention, she is a mom of 3, and she did not mention that. And so she's going to be speaking from the lens of not just Professor in higher ed, but also from a mom's point of view. So go ahead and take it from here. Tell us about your experience professionally and personally with virtual learning.
Yes. So really, my first experience did happen in academia, teaching online about 8 years ago, when it was still kind of new. And still, even in academia and even in the university, people were still kind of questioning online learning. Is this real? And they kind of, shunned it a little bit. But then now it's pretty commonplace. But so about 8 years ago, I was certified to begin teaching college students online. And that was a learning process. And that required some growth, and to be able to switch into, even though I'm an educator, it's still a very different skill set, and you have to engage in a very different way. And so it definitely changed, but I definitely grew from it. So that was my first initial experiences. And though I enjoy teaching online, I definitely say that, like, in person, it definitely, there's an advantage to teaching in person. I do enjoy that in-person interaction and just being able to do certain things that are more difficult, not impossible, but more difficult online. So that was my initial experiences. And then COVID happened. And so with my own kids, then it was really like an awakening to how difficult it can be, particularly with the younger ones. It can be difficult even with some of my college students, but my youngest is 5. I have a 14-year-old who is on the autism spectrum, as well as a 15-year-old. Well, now she just turned 16. She's pretty good for the most part. Not too many challenges, but definitely seeing with my youngest one with online learning and just managing that, and have total respect for preschool and first graders because it is not easy, especially not easy online, and have an amazing respect for all special needs teachers, for youth, for speech pathologists, for those who are working with our babies in helping them learn in different ways. Even though I'm an educator, it still really just showed me a whole new experience as far as learning more and trying to incorporate, new things to work with virtual learning, but also doing some things outside of that.
Right. And I can totally see that. And so what was one of the first things that you saw to where you were like, whoa, this is different?
Yeah. So, when I'm working with college students, they're pretty much young adults. So right. They will pretty much pay attention. And right. Obviously they have a bigger attention span and they can focus. But even them, you think about it, the average school day is like 6 hours right. for our young ones. That's a long time to be online, even for an adult. And, there's what's called Zoom burnout, and like people talk, even adults, and being in meetings back to back. I had a faculty meeting and a personal meeting and coaching. Like I was on Zoom for like 6 hours and I was tired. It right. was just a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And so just the level, just trying to keep them engaged and focused, it was really, really difficult. And then just having to navigate and learn all the new technology. So, though the system I teach online is totally different system than what they might be doing, in the elementary, and having to learn their online system. And then, making sure that everyone has a space and has a laptop accessibility to be able to learn all at the same time. And then working from home as well as, so all of that together was yes, a learning experience.
It is. And so for me, you guys know I'm a homeschooling mom. And funny enough, I became a homeschooling parent in 2019. And so that was the year before COVID happened. And so for us, we were just like, oh, So we just still do the same thing, right? And that was literally it. Like outside of like, I do miss field trips. Like I miss going to like museums and science centers. I still haven't gone. You know, we're in California, and so it's a little bit different than it is in other states and other countries. But like we have not been in over a year. And so like those parts I definitely miss. But my kiddos still get like some online learning. And I do notice and did notice and had to quickly like adjust the amount of screen time that they were getting. For example, they play the violin, but they were having upwards of 3 violin different sessions a week, 3 groups a week outside of private practice. And it was just like, it was burnout. And so like in some cases, if some parents don't always have like, they have different parenting styles and, you know, the kiddos are a little bit more used to being free with their words and free with their behavior. And, you know, it becomes it accidentally becomes a disruption. And I know that the kids like in person, like they don't mean any harm at all. They're being kids, right? It made the experience something that they really loved, not as much fun. And so we had to like check a lot of things and be really mindful. And like I said, like they love their violin community. They've been in that community for the better part of their lives. But that's just one example. So even like with their extracurriculars, like we do their foreign languages online. Sometimes we outsource for different classes online, like being able to leverage that, because I did learn quickly, like they burn out just like the adults burn out. And so my experience with virtual learning, like you guys know me, I don't love technology like that in the first place. I'm not a huge fan of technology, or may I say it has to be super beneficial. Like there has to be like some kind of benefit, some kind of reason for it to be used. And I do see benefits with it, but just keeping in mind that when we're putting like our little ones in front of the screens and having these expectations for them, as parents, I want us to be mindful to not stress yourself out if your sugar isn't wanting to sit in front of the screen for 30-minute time spans, 10-minute time spans, 15-minute time spans, 5-minute time spans. B, that we're becoming so stressed out trying to make them sit in front of the screen that it's now impacting our relationship, because we're trying to place this demand for them to be compliant. And they're feeling like they're not being heard because they're overwhelmed, and they're still trying to wrap their minds around like not being able to be with Timmy and Susie and them, right? Because that's another big deal. Like you see them on the screen, but it's different than being able to like bump into them or touch them, like those things that we take for granted so much, right? And C, if they're not doing those things, you're not a bad parent. You're not a bad parent at all. No. Because the thing about it is you don't want to be in front of the screen for 6 hours. I don't want to be in front of the screen for 6 hours, right? You need that break. And it doesn't make you a bad parent if they're not doing that. So I don't know. That wasn't even in my notes, but that was for somebody out there.
That was, hey, I'll take it.
Right? That's dealing with that, because it's a real thing. And so we really start questioning ourselves. We really start questioning ourselves. And so you guys know me, I'm all about, at the end of the day, how does this socially bring us back together? And can we take this platform and this virtual learning and the way that we're doing things and turn it for our good? And also to still be mindful to like cultivate these relationships with these educators and not attack them and them feel like they need to attack us because little Timmy ain't complying. Like Timmy's not a bad kid. He just don't want to do this. Like, so just, like everybody during this time, let's show a little bit of grace, because the educators are learning just like the students and the parents are learning. Right. And so that's my spiel on that, but that totally was not in my notes. I don't have anything written about that.
So needed.
So, I just felt like that needed to happen. So let's go into virtual learning. With the older kiddos, what are some ways, and we're going to play with both sides. Like I definitely want to play with like your higher education, higher learning as a teacher, but also from the mama side too. Like I want you to wear both hats. How did you engage? What were some strategies? Because you are amazing at like interpersonal relationships. How are you able to like cultivate and emulate that?
So I guess I'll start academically and then I'll go into personally too. So really, I know when I first started teaching online, I really was missing that because yes, I am definitely, I am all in, for my students and in the classroom, and I know about their lives and I know about, I'm really engaged. And so I really, really miss that. Being, just having that. And so for me, which, created some more work for me, but I didn't want to just post a video of a lecture or different. So it creates more work for me, but I just made sure that I was doing live Zooms and interacting and talking with my students weekly and making sure that they weren't just getting like technological information from me, but that they saw my face and then I was actually teaching live with them and asking them how their day was and, speaking to my students and getting that interaction, as well as creating activities and discussions and different things online. But I definitely, miss that. I know I've used Zoom more than I ever thought was possible, but between my clients and my students and my kids' school, that I'm like, yeah, it's just always on. But I wanted to make sure that I was interacting with them and that they could see my face and I could see their face. And though we do have in-person classes, but then even that, I feel like I'm missing because they're all masked up and, just like, I'm like, okay, now is that, I can only see your eyes. And so
don't change your hair.
I got to really know everybody's voice. And so that creates a challenge. And so then as far as my kids, at first, we all, I think we're just trying to just make it through. We're just trying to survive COVID and like get them online and, and then I just seen like my youngest, the 5-year-old, and he was learning. I'm not going to say that he fell behind per se, but he already was kind of advanced anyway, which made it more difficult for him to stay engaged because if they're working on something that he already knows, he'll just kind of check out and just start doing his own thing. And that can be frustrating for the teachers, but they're 5, and so he is definitely a kinetic learner and he needs to learn by doing and activities. And so I had to just make a personal decision. I didn't want to go full homeschool, but I definitely decided that, there are other types of virtual options. I mean, and that's as you as a parent have to look at what is best for your child. And I know I do want him to learn foreign languages. My husband speaks 3 languages. And so that was important to me. And I want to keep that up. But also I wanted him to be engaged and have activities and do things. And I'm not knocking, as far as public school or anything like that, because they, under the circumstances, are doing a phenomenal job. But for me, I had to, go into a virtual program that was more established and really provided a lot more resources, more activities, handouts, things, that they could do.
Right.
Not just online. Right. And so, it definitely can be stressful. And I mean, this really was like, and I know my husband's like, he's 5, like it's over. But I'm like, no, this is his foundation. Like, yes, his reading, as far as his, these are the foundation. Like, I did not want him to be behind. And so, but just finding a different format that worked for him, that had more work connected. And there are free resources out there. So don't feel like you have to be a millionaire, but there are other types of online learning opportunities that you can look into through, I look through K-12, but you can do different programs that will provide you resources for free.
Yes.
Activities to still engage your little ones and to be able to, and sometimes, and like us with our schedule, we needed the flexibility also of online, even besides the pandemic. And so yeah, you just have to really look at your child and make sure that, for me, like it is a lot of work. It definitely is a lot of work, yes. As a parent, and you're trying to, do music lessons. And I took piano when I was little, but I'm still, trying to help my, I want him to learn music and being engaged and speaking French around the house and having learn. My husband is fluent, but he doesn't speak it all the time. But just really making an intentional effort to make learning a part of your living, and just having those teachable moments all throughout the day and experience, and making it fun, and incorporate it into, like, we'll have lunch, and I'll have them ask me, can I have this in French, how do you say that, and just really trying to engage and make it a part of their everyday experience. Because for my son, just sitting down in front of a computer, and it just was not happening. And so I think what you said, though, you weren't meaning to, that wasn't in your notes, but definitely some parents need to hear that, because I know me, I was like, okay, it was creating power struggles, and you're like, you need to sit down and listen, and it's just a challenge, and you don't want to have that ruin your relationship with your children. But we have to work with them and find ways to meet their needs as well.
Right. And so, while you were talking, I started thinking about like the advanced learners and the advanced thinkers, because I know my little one, I don't even know what grade he is in anymore, technically. Like, I think my husband and I were in line the other day, and we looked at each other because we were talking about his math, and he looked at me and he's like, what grade is he in? And I was like, and that's literally how the conversation went. It was like, I don't know anymore. I have no clue. I don't know. I think he's supposed to be in second grade. I think that's what I came to the conclusion, is that he's supposed to be a second grader, but because of homeschool, we don't ever look at grades. Like, we don't look at grade levels. We just keep going. But he is that kid. Like, if he's in violin, then one of us have to be like sitting next to him, not because he's not capable. It has nothing to do with capability. It has to do with, like, this guy is going to be spinning in the chair, taking the bow and poking it at the screen, or he's going to be playing the next song because he's heard his sister play it 50 times and knows some of the finger. Like, he's going to be doing some silly. But I know that, it's not always possible for both parents or a parent to be able to be present. And so what is your advice for those like advanced learners, or those learners who we know, like, if you don't catch them, that attention is going to be somewhere else. You ever see rubber bands? He'll make like rubber band cards. He has balloons. I'm not kidding. This kid, he'll take anything and start like ricocheting it across the room.
No, that is, how old is his son?
He's 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, my 5-year-old definitely would have fun with them. So it's be there as much as you can, to support your kids. And like you said, not to beat yourself up about it. And hey, use those older kids if there's certain things that they can help and engage them with. It is kind of good when you can kind of teach them all together, and they can learn from one another as well. But at the same time, really try to put them in environments that you trust, that you feel they feel safe in, and that they are learning. And really, that's all you can do for the time you're not there. But then when you are there, to just try to be there, as much as you can, and ask them and engage them about their learning, and incorporate it, like I said, into whatever it is you're doing, and just trying to give them those skills and knowledge with whatever time that you have with them. And also definitely don't feel like you can't engage the teachers. And I'm not like criticizing or best, but, talk with them. Okay, what are they learning, this week? How can I help you, help them, and working with them and partnering with them, though you're not able to be there, but to be able to support what they're learning when you're not there, and whether that's in the aftercare or within the schools as well, to be able to see what you can do at home, see, like my little one is sight words, for kindergarten as they're learning, words and learning, things that you can go over and things that you can do at home, so that when they get to that online or real classroom, that they have some background, just reading to them and doing things as much as you can do
Right.
And I know it's been challenging for us all, and not being able to have maybe, those activities outdoor, but even still within your home, just trying to create spaces and opportunity to continue learning and to continue doing all that you can do, with them, with the time that you have with them. It is challenging. It is challenging. Whether you are able to be at home, I am able to teach role. It's still challenging. It's very challenging.
Yes.
So,
because then there's mommy burnout.
Yes. Yes.
Daddy burnout too. I'm not forgetting you dads out there. It's parent burnout.
That's a whole nother show, but you definitely make sure you take time for self-care so that you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Right. And you brought up something that I had been thinking about, and that was the connecting outside of those virtual hours. And connecting, I always use that word, like connect, grow, and learn together. And this is a way, I think connecting happens twofold. Connecting happens by reaching out to the educator, like reiterating what you said, communicating and having those lines of communication open with the teacher, and not just when things are going haywire, but like as a preventative measure of, hey, let me be in the know about what's happening, what's going on, where can I support, how can I support? And in some cases where some of you world changers out there have the extra time, do you need an extra set of eyes to be part of your virtual class and to break off in some of these Zoom rooms? And it doesn't have to be every day, but it could be every once in a while to provide that extra support and that extra hands-on support, especially if you have consent from the other parents. Like instead of having a room mom, schools had room moms and room parents and volunteer parents all the time. So even still being that face virtually, like I used to take time off of work to be there. And it's the same that holds true now. Like, how can we make these things not, it's not going to be the same. Like, we can't say that, oh, it's going to be the same as what it was when it was face to face. Well, we know it's not going to be that. And we know it's challenging. But again, we are resilient. And whatever we make it is what it's going to be. And so as much as we pour into it, as much as we'll get out of it. And so really allying with these educators is crucial, because they're struggling and figuring it out just like you. B, they have families too. So while they're teaching your family, they have their own kids in their own virtual Zoom rooms, and they're trying to figure it out as well and have the same questions that you have as well. So that's the one way that I want to think about us connecting. The other part about the connection that I want to expand on that you brought up ever so beautifully is the piece about connecting with your sugar. Well, that's what this show also is all about. How do we connect with our sugar? How do we know and learn our sugar? Like, yes, we've been observing them and they've been observing us, but how do we maximize that relationship? How do we push to purpose? What are we doing, right? And so that can happen outside of those virtual school hours. That can happen, I always say, 5 to 7 minutes a day. 5 to 7 minutes a day, you can get a synopsis of what happened during the day, as well as leaving that open-ended question, what can I support you with? How can mom help? How can dad help you out? Like, what is it that you need? You know what? Not just school-wise, like, how is it sitting in front of that screen? Asking those open-ended questions. So they're not feeling like they're an island, because little Timmy is probably not having virtual Zoom parties and picking up the phone and calling his friend like you get to, right? You get to still call your friends. They're probably not doing that as often. And let's be honest, like, virtual play dates are weird. I've tried it a few times and I didn't like it. And my poor kid, like, he just wanted to play with his friends, but they didn't have the same stuff. And I was like, unless we have the same stuff, like, it's going to be just weird. And so, like, thinking about, like, from their perspective, that they don't have that same outlet that we have, at least for the little ones. Now, the older ones, my daughter, she's on that little phone and she got her little friends and they're just as happy as can be. And that works for them. But for those little ones who we know are still moving and thinking and doing, like, let's legit start asking them these questions of, how is this working for you? And how are you feeling about this? And is it too long? Because honestly, we can be, again, providing that feedback to the educator. not in a, a way to where we're attacking them, but just saying like, hey, little Timmy needs a few extra breaks because they're saying that 30 minutes is too much. And remember, educators, that doesn't make you a bad educator at all. You're amazing at what you do, right? And taking that feedback makes you even more amazing because then you can modify and build it in the way that your sugars need it from you and your parents need it from you. So where it's not so much conflict. Remember, we're all about collaborating. And so I think that it's important for us to be thinking about like, yes, virtual school is happening. No, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, not in the foreseeable future, not here, but it's still happening. And even with the schedule modifications where some are getting like the hybrid of the two, we still need to be asking these questions so we can make it not such a like, oh my God, my baby, like I'm dreading this. Now I have anxiety. And now my sugar's got anxiety and they're fighting me and I'm fighting to get them there. And like now it's just this big old tug of war session. And so I want us to be thinking about this. And this is why we pay attention to our sugars and know who our sugars are so we can make the best choice as their parents and as the people who change their worlds and alter their worlds. And we have the power to do that, right? And the way that we do that and the best way we can do that is by knowing them and understanding what's best for them. So that's my spiel on that. I want to kind of jump off into a different topic, unless you want to add to that.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that what you said is so true in that to not try to be the super parent or feel like you have to do it all on your own. See what resources you have that around you to continue to support and work with you. And I'm so grateful, and my mother is like, and she was always this way, even when I was growing up and giving me little book reports and doing little things. And she's awesome with my son. And so are there people that can support you and groups and friends and family? I know some people maybe they don't have the finances to, bring in tutors or anything, but just additional people that'll be there to support. It does take a village to raise these little ones. And especially now when they are, I think if there are other people that, within your small group, that you can reach out to either for just ideas or suggestions or for actual assistance in helping them to learn and to grow in, various different areas. Realize you're not alone and to make sure that you're reaching out and letting the teacher know, as well as letting others know if there's ways that they can help or things that you would think would be great for them, your child to do to, get them involved with.
I agree 100%. And in fact, I'm going to have in the show notes today, there was a site, because you guys know I'm all about finding like what's available. How can we get what we need or get closer to what we need? Even pre-COVID, I'm all about creating things that are cost effective, that are hands-on, that get our sugars connected based on their interests, based on the needs, based on whatever it is. But I came across this website that has 300 different, I believe it's 300. Or is it 200? It's 300. It's in the 100, y'all. And it's different things that are being offered for free, whether it's academics, whether it has to do with parent guidance, whether it has to do with, youth and homelessness and food insecurity, books, essential needs, social emotional support, all of that stuff for sugars who are neurodivergent or have diagnosis and disorders. I have that, and I'm going to put it in our show notes because I don't want you world changers feeling like there's nothing out there, or what's out there, I have to have like all of this money or all of these resources. And I believe even now some states and some counties are providing free internet, and some schools and some libraries and I believe they're offering computers, and there's ways now where you can get access to computers if you don't have them. Access to cell phones if you don't have them, access to internet, to where there's not this gap. Because I did read up on this, and it's a good chunk of our kiddos who come from lower SES, socially economic families, who don't have the access to the internet and don't have the access to the computer and who are getting most of their work sent home. But what ends up happening is they miss out. As much as I don't love anybody being in front of the computer all day, I do know that there's opportunity there, and they're missing out on all these opportunities when they don't have that internet access to different programs that are being offered for free. And so I want us to be thinking about that as we move forward. And if not for ourselves, then maybe for someone we know, who we know, at this point may need the extra support. And instead of, buying the birthday gift, some new shoes or a new toy, gifting them a membership to one of the programs, gifting them a year of free internet, gifting them a year of something that's going to help them and be beneficial to them and to that community, because it genuinely takes a village. And for us to just recognize the needs and being able to meet those needs. So that will be in the show notes for us to make sure that, again, not only are we as a unit staying tooled up, but we're recognizing the need out there for other people who need those tools as well.
That's great.
And so that's just going to lead me to my closing thoughts is, world changers, make sure that you're supporting not only your sugar, but also the team that's working with your sugar. I can't emphasize enough the word collaboration. Collaborating with your sugar, collaborating with the team. Even if you have a little one, collaboration can start early. Remember, when they're young, you're creating those social blocks, right? You're creating social skills. So you can create what collaboration looks like, compromise, taking ideas and just working together as a team. And the way that you model that with their educators is teaching them a lesson that's going to just last forever and ever and ever. I know you've got this. Next thing I want to make sure in my closing thoughts is that we're making sure that we're making interpersonal connections. We're taking the extra step to get to know the educators, get to know the teachers, get to know their needs, because just like you have needs, they have needs too. How can you be an asset to that community? How can you be an asset to your sugar, supporting them through this process, and also taking care of you, making sure that you are voicing your opinion and that you have a safe space and community around you that will listen and that will provide you support and love and just help you along and let you know that you're not alone. And this is definitely a safe space that you can do that. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And finally, staying engaged. I know I hit on this a little bit, but stay engaged with the teacher, stay engaged with your child, just making sure that you're staying engaged with the community around you as much as possible. So you're not feeling like an island and not feeling like you're alone, because honestly, we're better together. We're in this together. And so let's make it the best that we can possibly make it. We don't have to let virtual learning kill our kids. We can take this and we can talk about it in the history books about how we rocked it and how we nailed it and how we took this very hard thing and made it something that was completely bearable. As always, world changers, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at questions@I'veGotThisKid.com. Find me on social media. All of the links are below. Catch up on past episodes. It's always a pleasure to hear from you guys. Dr. East-Phanor, Dr. East-Phanor, Dr. East, I love you. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this show. I think that parents are totally going to benefit and just know that they're not alone from somebody who got her whole doctorate degree, who's also a mama too, and understands what's happening right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Until the next time, world changers, take care.